My name is Diana, I'm 28 years old, and I just got back from a business trip to London. I wanted to surprise my husband by coming home a day early, but the surprise turned into a shock. The moment I pushed open the door, I heard suggestive sounds coming from the living room. My blood instantly froze. "Alan, your wife isn't coming back until tomorrow, is she?" The woman's coquettish voice sent a chill down my spine. "She's too busy making money to have time for me." "If it weren't for her family's fortune, I would have kicked her out long ago," Alan said with disdain. "Jenna, you're much more sensible than she is." Through the crack in the living room door, I saw my husband Alan hugging a young woman on the sofa. I recognized the woman. She was Jenna, the marketing manager at Alan's company. She was 25 years old, with a sweet face and a hot body. I've seen her a few times, and every time she looked innocent and harmless, calling me sister-in-law in a particularly sweet voice. Now she's sitting in Alan's arms, the two of them close together. "When are you getting divorced?" "I can't wait." Jenna pouted. "Soon." Alan stroked her face. "Once this project she invested in is finished, I'll kick her out." "That's great. We can finally be together openly." When they were talking, my heart was breaking. 3 years of marriage, and it was all a joke. I thought Alan was just busy with work and our relationship had grown a bit distant, but I never imagined he had already found another woman. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. "There's no need to wait for the divorce. I can make it happen for you right now." The two people in the living room immediately separated. Jenna's face was pale, while Alan looked guilty. "Diana, let me explain." "Explain what?" I sneered. "Explain that you're researching work? Or explain the divorce agreement you just mentioned?" Alan opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Jenna suddenly calmed down, fixed her hair, stood up, and looked at me. "Sister-in-law, since you already know, I won't pretend anymore. Alan has long since stopped loving you, and your marriage has been nothing but a name for years." "Really?" I looked at this woman 3 years younger than me. "So do you think he loves you?" "Of course he does. Otherwise, why would he prepare divorce papers for me?" Jenna said smugly. I couldn't help but laugh. "Jenna, do you think Alan married me?" She paused for a moment. "Because my family is wealthy, my father's company can help his career. Now I've inherited my father's company, and all the shares are in my name." I said slowly, "Do you think he would leave me, his sugar daddy, to marry you, a marketing manager?" I took my phone out of my bag and said, "I'll call your dad right now and tell him you want a divorce. You know that your company's biggest project right now is the one we're collaborating on with my family." Alan's face turned ugly in an instant. "Diana, don't be impulsive." "Impulsive?" I sneered. "What am I being impulsive about? My husband cheated on me, and I'm supposed to just put up with it?" Jenna started to panic a little. "Sis, about this." "Don't call me sister-in-law, I don't have a sister like you." I interrupted her. "Jenna, since you like stealing other people's husbands so much, I'll make it easy for you." I took out my phone and called my father in front of them. "Dad, Alan and I are getting divorced, and the H Group real estate project has been cancelled." My father's shocked voice came from the other end of the line. "Diana, what's going on?" "He cheated on me with a female subordinate at work," I said calmly. "That bastard," my father shouted. "Stop the project immediately. I'll have my lawyer prepare the paperwork." After hanging up the phone, I looked at Alan. His face was as white as a sheet. H Group Real Estate's largest project right now is the commercial complex it is collaborating on with my company, with an investment of 5 billion yuan. If the project is halted, H Group Real Estate will face a direct cash flow crisis. "Diana, you can't do this." Alan was getting anxious. "This project affects the livelihoods of thousands of employees at the company." "Did you think about that when you were cheating on me?" I asked back. Jenna was completely flustered at this point. "Sis, I'm sorry, it was my fault, I shouldn't have." "It's too late to apologize now." I looked at her. "Jenna, didn't you want Alan?" Now he's yours, along with his company's debts. Alan slumped on the sofa. I turned to leave, but Alan suddenly knelt down. Diana, please don't do this. I was wrong. I really was wrong. I stopped in my tracks and looked back at the man kneeling on the ground. 3 years ago, it was this man who swore he would love me forever. 3 years later, he betrayed me for another woman. Now he's kneeling before me for money. How ironic. Alan, some things are broken beyond repair, just like our marriage. I said softly, take care of yourself. With that, I turned and left the home I had lived in for 3 years without looking back. When I stepped out of the villa, I realized my legs were shaking. It wasn't fear, it was anger. I was working hard outside, and he was at home fooling around with other women. He even said I was only concerned with making money and didn't care about him. It was like the pot calling the kettle black. I sat in the car and took out my phone to call my lawyer. Prepare the divorce agreement, and divide the property according to the prenuptial agreement. Okay, Diana, what do you need me to do? Find out how long Alan and Jenna have been together and gather evidence of his infidelity. I hung up the phone, started the car, and drove away. Alan, Jenna, this is just the beginning. You made me look bad, and I'll make you wish you were dead. The next morning, Alan called me frantically. I didn't answer any of his calls. It wasn't until noon that I received an unexpected call at the office. Diana, this is Jenna. I'd like to meet with you. Jenna's voice trembled over the phone. Meet? I sneered, Miss Jenna, what do we have to meet about? Diana, I know you're angry, but I hope we can sit down and talk it out. Talk about what? Talk about how you seduced my husband? Diana, you misunderstood. Alan and I are just colleagues. I hung up the phone immediately. In the afternoon, Jenna actually came to my company. The receptionist called me, Diana, there's a lady named Jenna downstairs who wants to see you. Let her come up. I want to see what tricks this woman has up her sleeve. 10 minutes later, Jenna appeared at my office door. She was dressed conservatively today, in a black suit with her hair tied back in a ponytail, looking pitiful. Diana, I'm sorry to disturb you, she said cautiously. Please sit down and tell me what you want. I didn't look up and continued staring at the computer screen. Diana, yesterday was a misunderstanding. Jenna sat down, her voice soft, Alan and I are just colleagues. I was just reporting on my work yesterday. I finally looked up at her, reporting on your work requires sitting in his lap? Jenna blushed, that's because I twisted my ankle, and President Alan kindly helped me up. Oh? I leaned back in my chair, so discussing the divorce agreement is also part of your job? Jenna opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. Jenna, I'm not stupid. I stood up and walked over to her. How long have you two been together? Diana, really, no. Half a year? A year? Or longer? I interrupted her. Jenna lowered her head, unable to look at me. It seems like it's been a long time. I sneered, Jenna, do you know what crime it is to destroy someone else's family? She looked up suddenly, Diana, you can't do this. We truly love each other. Truly in love? I laughed, then why did Alan kneel down yesterday and beg me not to withdraw my investment? If he really loves you, why doesn't he just divorce me? I'll tell you why, because he needs my family's money. I looked down at her and said, Jenna, what do you think you are? You're just a toy to amuse him. No, Alan loves me. Jenna was anxious, he said he would marry me after the divorce. Do you think you will still divorce her now? Jenna was speechless. I sat back down in my chair, tell me the real reason you came here today. Jenna hesitated for a moment, Diana, Alan's company is in a tough spot right now. If the project gets cancelled, a lot of people will lose their jobs. So I hope you'll spare us the trouble and not withdraw your investment. I stared at her for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed. Jenna, do you know what I hate most? She shook her head. I hate being treated like an idiot. I stood up. Did Alan send you here? Jenna's face changed. Did he tell you that he would divorce me and marry you if I didn't withdraw my investment? Jenna's expression gave her away. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Jenna, you're so naive. Alan wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants my family's money and you. No. Isn't that right? I pulled out a document from the drawer. This is what my lawyer found out. These are your hotel records with Alan, starting from 1.5 years ago. Jenna saw the document and turned pale. 1.5 years, a whole 1.5 years, you kept this from me for 1.5 years. My voice turned cold. Jenna, do you think I'll forgive you? Diana, I know I was wrong. Please give us another chance. Jenna started crying. Opportunity? I sneered. I gave Alan a chance, I gave you a chance, but how did you treat me? I walked up to Jenna, bent down, and looked at her. Jenna, I'm giving you 2 options. First, quit Alan's company immediately and disappear from our lives. Second, wait for H Group Real Estate to go bankrupt and then take on the debt with Alan. Jenna cried even harder. Diana, please, I really know I was wrong. Choose, you only have 3 seconds. I choose the first one. Jenna said, choking on her words. Great. I sat back down. Now call Alan and resign in front of me. Jenna trembled as she took out her phone and dialed Alan's number. Alan, I want to resign. Alan's angry voice came from the other end of the phone. Jenna, what are you talking about? I'm leaving the company, and we should break up. Jenna cried. Jenna, did Diana threaten you? Where are you? I'll be right over. I grabbed my phone. Alan, she's at my office. Do you want to come? There was a few seconds of silence on the other end of the line. Diana, what do you want? Alan's voice was low. I don't want anything. I just want certain people to understand their place. I said lightly, Alan, Jenna has chosen to leave. What about you? What do you mean? It means she chose her career and gave up on you. I looked at Jenna, who was crying, and asked, Alan, do you still think she loves you? There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. I understand, Alan said, his voice filled with despair. After hanging up the phone, I looked at Jenna and said, we can go now. Jenna stood up, took 2 steps, then turned back and said, Diana, Alan really loves you. He was just confused for a moment. Jenna. I called out to her, if you really love Alan, you should stay away from him. Because as long as I'm around, he'll never truly have you. Jenna stared at me blankly, then turned and ran out. I was the only one left in the office. I sat in my chair, looking out the window. This was only the first step. Alan, Jenna, I'll make you pay for betraying me. The news of Jenna's resignation spread quickly. Alan called me countless times, but I didn't answer any of his calls. In the evening, I was tidying up at home when the doorbell rang. I saw Alan through the surveillance camera and hesitated, but opened the door anyway. Diana, let's talk. Alan looks exhausted, his eyes bloodshot. What is there to talk about? I leaned against the doorframe and didn't let him in. Jenna has quit, so we can start over. I couldn't help but laugh. Start over? Alan, do you think that's possible? Why not? We've been together for 3 years. Feelings? My smile turned sarcastic. Alan, when you were sleeping with Jenna, did you ever think about our feelings? Alan's face changed. Diana, I admit I was wrong, but... But what? But you're a man, you have physical needs? I interrupted him. Alan, don't make excuses for yourself. I know I hurt you, but we can fix our relationship. Alan tried to grab my hand, but I dodged him. Repair? I sneered. Alan, if it weren't for the money, would you have come back to me? Alan opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. See, you're not even sure yourself. I got ready to close the door. Alan hurriedly blocked the door with his hands. Diana, give me a chance. I'll prove I love you. Love me? I looked at him, then choose now. Do you want Jenna, or my family's money? I choose you, Alan said without hesitation. Really? I pulled out my phone. Then I'll call Jenna right now and tell her you chose me, so she can come back and be with you. Are you okay with that? Alan was stunned. See, you can't do it, I sneered. Alan, you want to have your cake and eat it too. You want my family's money and Jenna. No, I really chose you. Alright, I'll give you a chance to prove yourself. I looked at him. Tomorrow is the company's annual meeting. You will apologize to me in front of everyone and admit that you cheated on me. Alan's face turned pale. Diana, this will ruin my reputation. So your reputation is more important than my feelings? That's not what I meant. That's exactly what I meant. I pushed him away forcefully. Alan, just go. We really have nothing to talk about. After saying that, I slammed the door shut. I heard Alan knocking on the door, but I ignored him. The next day was the company's annual meeting, and I specially picked out a red dress. The annual meeting was held at the best hotel in the city. Alan's company and our company are partners, so he was also invited to attend. As soon as I arrived at the venue, I saw Alan standing at the entrance wearing a suit. He saw me and immediately walked over. Diana, you look beautiful today. Thank you, I replied softly. About yesterday, I thought about it all night, and I'm willing to apologize publicly, Alan said quietly. I stopped in my tracks and looked at him. Really? Really, I'll apologize to you on stage. Okay, I'll wait. The annual meeting began, and I sat at the main table while Alan sat in the partner seats. Halfway through the dinner, the host began inviting guests to come up and speak. I had been waiting for Alan to take the stage, but he just sat there, not moving. Finally, the host said, "Next, please welcome Alan, president of H Group Real Estate, to take the stage and deliver his speech." Alan stood up and walked toward the stage. I looked at him and thought to myself, he's finally going to fulfill his promise. Alan stood on the stage, holding the microphone, and cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for your support of H Group Real Estate. He began his official speech. Over the past year, with the help of our partners, H Group Real Estate has achieved remarkable results. I furrowed my brow. What did this have to do with an apology? Alan continued, we would especially like to thank the Lin Group for their tremendous support. Diana is our most important partner. I realized he was playing tricks. Sure enough, Alan continued, I believe that with Diana's support, our cooperation will deepen and the project will be even more successful. This was not an apology, but clearly an attempt to morally blackmail me. He wanted to embarrass me in front of everyone so that I would feel uncomfortable withdrawing my investment. I stood up. All eyes in the room turned to me. Alan was looking at me with a smug expression. I picked up the microphone and walked toward the stage. President Alan was right, we are indeed partners. I stood beside Alan and smiled, saying, but President Alan, there's one thing you forgot to mention. Alan's expression changed. President Alan, weren't you planning to make a public apology? Now is the perfect opportunity. I looked at him. The audience was silent, no one knew what was happening. Alan's hand holding the microphone was trembling. Diana, let's talk about this at home. No, let's talk about it here. I turned to the audience, everyone, I have something to announce. Alan tried to stop me, but I dodged his hand. My partnership with Alan, the president, is about to end, because he is not only my business partner but also my husband. My voice echoed throughout the hall, but this husband has betrayed me. The audience erupted into chaos. He had an inappropriate relationship with one of his female subordinates for a year and a half, and I caught them red-handed yesterday. I continued, as his wife, I choose to forgive him. But as a business partner, I cannot continue to trust someone who has betrayed me. Alan's face was as pale as paper. Therefore, starting tomorrow, Lynn Group will terminate all cooperation with H Group Real Estate. I smiled and said, "Thank you all." After finishing, I handed the microphone to Alan, who was standing motionless on the stage, and turned to walk off the stage. A loud commotion erupted from the audience. I walked out of the venue without looking back. I heard Alan's voice behind me, "Diana, you can't do this." I didn't turn around. "Alan, this is the price you pay for betraying me." News of the annual meeting spread quickly. The next day, major financial media outlets were reporting on Lynn Group's withdrawal of investment from H Group Real Estate. The headlines were eye-catching: feud between wealthy families, Lynn's daughter withdraws $5 billion investment, H Group Real Estate faces cash flow crisis. I sat in my office, flipping through the reports, feeling calm. My phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number. "Diana, this is Gavin," a deep male voice came over the phone. "Gavin, I know this person. He is the president of a multinational corporation, 32 years old, a highly educated overseas returnee, and a legend in the business world. We have met a few times at business events, but we have not had any in-depth conversations. Gavin, is there anything I can help you with? I would like to meet with you to discuss a potential collaboration project." "What project?" "A project that could completely wipe out H Group Real Estate." I gripped my phone tightly. "Gavin, what do you mean by that?" "Diana, if you're interested, let's meet at the New York Hotel Cafe at 7 p.m. to discuss further." Gavin hung up as soon as he finished speaking. I put down my phone and fell into deep thought. Why would Gavin help me deal with Alan? What kind of grudge do they have against each other? At 7 o'clock in the evening, I arrived at the New York hotel on time. Gavin was already waiting for me in the coffee shop. He was wearing a dark gray suit, sitting in a corner, looking at some documents. "Gavin," I said as I walked over to greet him. Gavin looked up at me with a deep gaze. "Diana, please sit down." I sat down, and the waiter brought us coffee. "Gavin, what project were you talking about?" I asked him directly. Gavin put down the documents and looked at me. "Diana, do you know if H Group Real Estate has any other major projects besides the one they're collaborating on with your family?" I thought for a moment. "I don't think so. That commercial complex is their biggest project." "No, there's one more." Gavin took out a document. The H Group spent 2 billion yuan to acquire the land in the Eastern District and plans to build high-end residential properties. I took the document and glanced at it. "I know about this project, but it has nothing to do with us." "But it's related to me." Gavin smiled. "That piece of land was originally what I wanted, but Alan snatched it away." "I see, so you want that land back?" "It's not just about getting it back. I want to completely bankrupt H Group Real Estate." Gavin's eyes sharpened. "Diana, are you willing to work with me? How exactly would we collaborate?" "It's simple. H Group Real Estate is currently facing a cash flow crisis. If we apply a little more pressure, they will collapse." Gavin explained, "I can acquire H Group Real Estate's debt and demand immediate repayment." "Is this legal?" "It's completely legal." "That's just business." Gavin smiled. "Diana, you're not going to get soft on me, are you?" I remembered the intimate scenes between Alan and Jenna at my house, and the anger in my heart flared up again. Why should I get soft on them? "Then let's work together." Gavin extended his hand. I shook his hand. "Gavin, why are you helping me?" "Because I hate traitors." Gavin's expression turned cold. Someone like Alan doesn't deserve to survive in the business world. When I left the coffee shop, I felt much more relaxed. With an ally like Gavin, dealing with Alan would be much easier. The next day, Alan came to find me again. This time, he was waiting directly below my office building. "Diana, let's talk," he said, blocking my car. I rolled down the window. "Alan, you have the nerve to come looking for me? Regarding yesterday's annual meeting, I know you were upset, but your actions could harm many innocent people." Alan looked exhausted. "Innocent people?" I sneered. Alan, when you were unfaithful, did you consider me an innocent person? I know I was wrong, but the employees at the company are innocent. Then you figure out a way to save them. What does that have to do with me? Alan got angry. Diana, you can't be so heartless. Heartless? I couldn't help but laugh. Alan, do you know what heartless means? Heartless is sleeping with another woman for a year and a half and still pretending to love your wife. I really know I was wrong. I swear I'll never betray you again. Alan grabbed my hand. Diana, can we start over? I looked at him and suddenly felt ridiculous. Alan, do you really think I'll believe you? I can prove it to you. How will you prove it? Keep lying to me? I pulled my hand back forcefully. Alan, let's get a divorce. Let's end this farce while we still can. No, I won't agree to a divorce, Alan said firmly. It doesn't matter if you don't agree. I've already had my lawyer prepare the divorce agreement. I looked at him and suddenly understood something. Alan, do you think that as long as we don't get divorced, I won't completely withdraw my investment? Alan's expression gave him away. You're really naive, I sneered. Alan, divorce is one thing, but withdrawing investments is another. Even if we don't divorce, the Lin Group will no longer cooperate with H Group Real Estate. Why? Why should our personal issues involve work? Because I don't trust your character, I said calmly. A man who can betray his own wife, what else is there that he wouldn't betray? Alan was completely devastated. He sat on the ground, holding his head in his hands. Diana, do you really have to do this to me? Alan, this is the path you chose for yourself. I started the car and said, think carefully about who betrayed whom first. Then I drove away. In the rearview mirror, Alan was still sitting on the ground, looking like a loser. But I didn't feel any sympathy for him. Alan, this is just the beginning. Gavin is highly efficient. 3 days later, he completed the acquisition of H Group's real estate debt. I received his call while I was in a meeting at the company. Diana, most of H Group's real estate debts are now in my hands. Gavin's voice sounded cheerful. I can demand repayment at any time. How much? 32 billion. I gasped, that much? H Group Real Estate has been operating on borrowed capital for years, with bank loans, supplier debts, and employee wages all adding up to that amount. Gavin explained, now I'm demanding that they repay all their debts within a month. Can they afford it? Of course not, so they'll have to file for bankruptcy. After hanging up, I felt a mix of emotions. 32 billion is an astronomical figure for Alan. But when I thought about his betrayal, I hardened my heart. In the afternoon, I received an unexpected call. Diana, it's Jenna. I had completely forgotten about this woman. Miss Jenna, what is it? Diana, I have a favor to ask of you. Jenna's voice was trembling. Please don't go after President Alan. Me go after him? I sneered, Miss Jenna, you've got it all wrong. He was the one who betrayed me first. I know it's all my fault. I was the one who seduced President Alan. Jenna burst into tears, but President Alan is innocent. He was just momentarily confused. Jenna, what's the point of saying this now? Diana, I'm willing to do anything to make it up to you, as long as you spare President Alan. I couldn't help but laugh. Anything? Including disappearing from this world? Jenna fell silent. Jenna, Alan's current situation is of his own making. I said indifferently, if you want to save him, go find someone else. Diana, please. I hung up the phone. In the evening, I was eating dinner at home when the doorbell rang again. This time it wasn't Alan, but Alan's grandfather, Blake. Grandpa Blake was over 70 years old and the founder of H Group Real Estate. I opened the door and saw him, a little surprised. Grandpa, I called out. Diana, can I come in and sit down? Grandpa Blake looks very tired. I let him in and poured him some tea. Grandpa Blake, you're here about Alan, aren't you? Grandpa Blake nodded. Diana, I know Alan wronged you, but H Group real estate is the work of my entire life. I looked at the white-haired old man and felt a pang of pity. Grandpa Blake, this has nothing to do with you. But if H Group real estate goes under, this old man won't survive. Blake sighed. Diana, for the sake of our years together, can you give Alan a chance? I paused for a moment. Grandpa Blake, it's not that I didn't give him a chance, it's that Alan didn't appreciate it. I know he was wrong, and I've already given him a good scolding. Grandpa Blake said, Diana, Alan really knows he was wrong, and he's willing to cut all ties with that woman. Grandpa Blake, some things can't be solved by cutting ties. I said softly, trust is hard to repair once it's broken. Then how do you want Alan to make it up to you? I looked at Grandpa Blake and suddenly had an idea. Grandpa Blake, if I say I want control of H Group real estate, would you give it to me? Grandpa Blake was stunned. Diana, what do you mean? What I mean is that I can keep my investment, but H Group real estate must be managed by me. I explained, Alan can continue as general manager, but major decisions must be made by me. Grandpa Blake thought for a long time. Diana, you want to acquire H Group's real estate? It's not an acquisition, it's a takeover. I corrected him, Grandpa Blake, this is the biggest concession I can make. I need to discuss it with Alan. All right, you have a day to think about it. I stood up. Grandpa Blake, let me know by tomorrow evening. After Grandpa Blake left, I called Gavin. Gavin, I want to modify our plan. How should we modify it? I want H Group real estate, not to destroy it. Gavin was silent for a moment. Diana, are you sure this is the right thing to do? I'm sure. I said firmly, Gavin, I don't want revenge, I want control. Okay, I support your decision. Gavin said, what do you need me to do? Keep pressuring Alan so he has no choice but to accept my terms. The next evening, Alan arrived. He looked much more haggard, his eyes bloodshot. Diana, Grandpa has told me your conditions, he said, sitting down on the sofa, looking exhausted. I agree, Alan said softly, but I have one condition. I hope you can forgive me and give our marriage another chance. I looked at him and couldn't help but laugh. Alan, do you think that's possible? Why not? We can start over. Start over? I shook my head. Alan, I can give you a job, but our marriage is over. That's my condition. Take it or leave it. I interrupted him. You only have two choices. Alan remained silent for a long time before finally nodding. I accept. Very well. I took out the contract I had prepared earlier. Sign it. Alan picked up the pen and signed his name on the contract. From that moment on, H Group real estate was mine. And Alan, from my husband, became my employee. That was the price of betraying me. After taking over H Group's real estate business, the first thing I did was clean house. All employees closely associated with Jenna were fired. Alan tried to plead for them, but I refused. Diana, they're all innocent. Alan stood in my office, sounding helpless. Innocent? I looked at the documents without raising my head. Alan, did they know about your affair with Jenna? Alan fell silent. Not only did they know, but they also helped cover for you. I looked up at him. I don't need employees like that. Diana. Call me Diana, I corrected coldly. Alan, you are now my employee. Mind your place. Alan's face turned ugly, but he changed his tone. Diana, I understand. Also, you need to schedule appointments for future reports. I continued, don't just walk into my office. Alan nodded and turned to leave. Wait. I called him back, where is Jenna now? I don't know. Alan looked back at me, I haven't contacted her since she quit. Right? I sneered, Alan, you better not have contacted her, because I'll have someone watching you. Alan's body stiffened, but he nodded anyway. In the afternoon, my assistant knocked on the door and came in. Diana, a lady named Jenna would like to see you. I put down the documents I was working on and said, send her in. A few minutes later, Jenna appeared at the door of my office. She looked exhausted, her face pale and her eyes red and swollen. "Diana," she called out cautiously. "Sit down." I pointed to the chair. "Tell me what you want." Jenna sat down, her hands clenched tightly around her bag. "Diana, I want you to let Alan off the hook. I didn't give him a hard time. He's still working at the company, isn't he? But you fired all his friends and had him watched." Jenna started crying. "Diana, President Alan is in pain." "Pain?" I leaned back in my chair. "Jenna, do you know how much pain I've been in for the past year and a half?" Jenna lowered her head. "I'm sorry, it's all my fault." "It's too late to say sorry now." I stood up and walked up to her. "Jenna, do you still love Alan?" She looked up at me, her eyes pleading. "Love, of course I love him." "Would you be willing to do anything for him?" "Yes," Jenna said without hesitation. I returned to my seat and took a document out of the drawer. "This is a contract for a job abroad in Africa for 3 years. I handed her the documents and said, "If you really love Alan, sign it and leave here forever." Jenna looked at the documents and turned even paler. "Diana, are you transferring me?" "It's a chance for you to start over," I said softly. "Jenna, as long as you're still in this city, Alan won't give up." "But I don't want to leave him." "Then you're the one who's hurting him." I laughed coldly. "Jenna, Alan's current situation is all because of you. If you really love him, you should leave." Jenna picked up the documents and flipped through them nervously. "This job, in a remote area of Africa?" "Yes, the conditions are harsh, but the salary is good." I explained, "After 3 years, you can choose whether to stay or leave." Jenna remained silent for a long time before finally picking up the pen and signing her name. "Diana, I've signed," she said tearfully. "But I have one request. Could you please let me see President Alan one last time?" "No way." I refused flatly. "Jenna, since you've chosen to leave, we should cut all ties completely." "When should I leave?" "Tomorrow." Jenna was stunned. "So soon?" "The sooner the better, so Alan won't find out." After Jenna left, I called Gavin. "Gavin, Jenna has agreed to go abroad." "Great, now Alan will give up completely," Gavin said. "Diana, you're really clever. This is just the beginning." I looked out the window. "Gavin, I need you to help me with something. I want to know what else Alan is hiding." "Do you suspect he has other women?" "I'm not sure, but I need to make sure he never betrays me again." "I understand. I'll have someone look into it." I hung up the phone and walked over to the window. Downstairs, Alan was walking out of the company building. He looked lonely, his back appearing somewhat desolate. But I didn't feel any sympathy for him. This was the price of betrayal. The next day, Jenna left the country. Alan couldn't find her and came to ask me, "Diana, do you know where Jenna went?" "I don't know. I didn't even look up." "Alan, as the president and manager, you should be concerned about work, not your ex-girlfriend." Alan's face looked grim. "She wouldn't just disappear for no reason. Maybe she's come to her senses and decided to start over." I looked up at him. "Alan, the president and manager, you should learn from her." "What do you mean?" "Forget the past and focus on work." My tone was cold. Alan, the president and manager, asked, "Do you have anything else for me? If not, please leave." Alan stood there, looking at me with a complex expression in his eyes. "Diana, can we really not go back?" I put down my pen and looked at him seriously. "Do you think it's possible?" He was silent for a long time, then shook his head and turned to leave the office. Watching his back as he walked away, I felt a sense of satisfaction. "Alan, you finally begin to understand that some things, once lost, are lost forever." A month later, Gavin sent me the investigation report. After reading it, I was so angry that I was shaking all over. Not only had Alan been involved with Jenna for a year and a half, but he had also been involved with other women before we got married. Even during our honeymoon, he was sending suggestive text messages to his ex-girlfriend. I thought Jenna was just a fling, but it turns out Alan is a womanizer. That evening, Gavin sent me a new message. "Diana, I found something interesting," he said on the phone. "Alan has another illegitimate child." I gripped my phone tightly. An illegitimate child? Yes, the child's mother is his university classmate, and the child is now 5 years old. Does Alan know about this child? Yes, and he has been secretly supporting him. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Alan, how many more secrets do you have? Gavin, send me the details. I've already sent them to your email. I hung up the phone and turned on my computer to check my email. The little boy in the photo looked a lot like Alan, with a high degree of similarity in his eyebrows and eyes. The child's mother is named Grace, and she was Alan's college classmate. According to the records, Grace has always been a single mother, relying on Alan's financial support to make ends meet. As I looked at these documents, I felt a mix of emotions. While marrying me, Alan was secretly taking care of his illegitimate child. How many more things is this man hiding from me? I picked up my phone and called Grace. Hello, is this Ms. Grace? Yes, who is this? I am Alan's wife, and I would like to meet with you. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. I see. Where would you like to meet? Grace's voice was calm. Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m., Starbucks Coffee Shop, Times Square branch. Okay, I'll go. I hung up the phone, leaned back in my chair, and closed my eyes. Alan, your secret is finally going to be revealed. The next afternoon, I arrived at the coffee shop on time. Grace was already waiting for me. She looked ordinary, around 30 years old, dressed simply, with a little boy sitting next to her. That was Alan's illegitimate son. Ms. Grace. I walked over and sat down. You're Alan's wife? Grace looked me over. You're more beautiful than I imagined. Thank you. I glanced at the little boy. Is this Alan's son? Yes, his name is Kyle. Grace gently stroked the child's head. Kyle, say Auntie. The little boy timidly called out, Hello, Auntie. Looking at this child, I felt very complicated. He was innocent, but his existence made me feel angry. Ms. Grace, can we talk in private? I glanced at the little boy. Kyle, go play over there for a while. Mom and Auntie need to talk. Grace took the child to the children's area nearby. When the child had left, I spoke up, Ms. Grace, what is your relationship with Alan? We were college classmates and also former girlfriends. Grace was very honest. After we broke up, he got married, but we have always kept in touch. So when was Kyle born? 5 years ago. Grace lowered her head. At that time, Alan had just gotten married. My heart ached as if it had been cut by a knife. Alan and I had only been married for a short time when he had a child with his ex-girlfriend. And I had been kept in the dark the whole time. Does Alan know about the child? Yes, he knows. He has been sending us living expenses. Grace said it's 50,000 yuan a month. 50,000 yuan is no small amount. Alan only gives me 100,000 yuan a month for household expenses, and he actually gives half of it to his illegitimate child. Ms. Grace, do you have any other relationship with him? I tried to remain calm. No, we only keep in touch for the sake of the children. Grace shook her head. Ms. Diana, I know this is unfair to you, but Kyle is innocent. I know children are innocent. I looked at the little boy playing in the toy section. Ms. Grace, I want to ask you a question. Go ahead. If Alan and I get divorced, would you get back together with him? Grace paused for a moment. I've never thought about that. Grace remained silent for a long time. If he really divorces, for the sake of the children, I might consider it. I nodded. I understand. Ms. Diana, are you planning to divorce Alan? Yes. I'll be frank, Ms. Grace, I have a proposal. What proposal? Alan is unwilling to sign the divorce agreement, but if he knows that your existence has been exposed, he might change his mind. Grace's face turned pale. You want to reveal the existence of Kyle and me? It's not public, just so Alan knows that I already know. I explained, Ms. Grace, what do you think Alan cares more about? My marriage or Kyle's reputation? Grace understood what I meant. Are you trying to use Kyle to threaten Alan? It's not a threat, it's making him face reality. I corrected, Ms. Grace, we've all been deceived by Alan. He's been maintaining 2 families. But Kyle doesn't know anything about it. So we have to protect him. I looked at Grace, Ms. Grace, as long as Alan agrees to the divorce, I promise I won't hurt Kyle. Grace thought about it for a long time. What do you want me to do? Call Alan and tell him that I already know about Kyle. Then what? Then do nothing and wait for Alan to come to you. Grace nodded, I understand. I took out a bank card from my bag. Ms. Grace, here is 1 million. Consider it a gift for Kyle. That's too much. I can't accept it. Grace declined. Take it, the child needs a better education, I insisted. Ms. Grace, we are all women who have been hurt by Alan, we should help each other. Grace finally accepted the bank card. As we were leaving, Kyle ran over and hugged my leg. Auntie, you're so pretty. Looking at this innocent child, I felt a mix of emotions. He was indeed innocent, but his presence reminded me of how deep Alan's betrayal ran. When I got home, I called Gavin. Gavin, the plan is underway. Is there anything I need to do? Not for now. I need to see how Alan reacts first. Alright, let me know if you need anything. I hung up the phone and sat on the sofa waiting. I believe Grace will call Alan soon. And when Alan finds out the truth, he will definitely come to me. Alan, let me see, between your son and your wife, which one will you choose? Sure enough, less than an hour later, my phone rang. Diana, let's meet up. Alan's voice was urgent. Just say it over the phone. It's about Kyle. I want to explain in person. I sneered, now you want to explain? Alan, it's too late. Diana, please give me a chance. A chance? My voice turned cold. Alan, how many chances have I given you? I'll come over right away. No, let's settle this in court. I hung up the phone, feeling surprisingly calm. Alan, the game is over. At 10 p.m., the doorbell rang. I saw Alan standing outside through the security camera, holding a bouquet of roses. I didn't open the door, and Alan stood outside for 2 hours before finally sitting down on the steps at the door. The next morning, when I opened the door to go to work, I found him still there. He looked exhausted, his eyes bloodshot. Diana, he said, standing up immediately when he saw me. Alan, what are you doing here? I asked coldly. I want to talk to you. He handed me the roses, your favorite red roses. I didn't take them, Alan, red roses are the last thing I want right now. Alan's hand froze in midair. About Kyle, I want to explain. Explain what? Explain that you had a child with your ex-girlfriend while you were married to me? I interrupted him, Alan, is there anything else I don't know? No, I swear, there's nothing else. Alan said hurriedly. Alan, your promises mean nothing to me. I walked around him toward the garage. Alan followed me. Diana, what happened with Kyle was an accident. Grace and I have nothing else going on. An accident? I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at him. Alan, you're telling me that getting pregnant and having a child was an accident? We were just acting on impulse. A moment of impulse? I couldn't help but laugh. Alan, you still acted on impulse with your ex-girlfriend after getting married? Is that your attitude toward marriage? Alan had no response. Alan, let's get a divorce. I looked at him seriously. For Kyle's sake, and for our own. No, I won't get divorced. Alan shook his head firmly. Diana, I'll handle Kyle's matter, but I can't lose you. Handle it? I sneered. How will you handle it? Make that child disappear from the world? I can cut off all ties with Grace and never see Kyle again. Hearing this, I was completely enraged. Alan, are you even human? That's your own flesh and blood. But I love you more. Love me? I pushed him hard. Alan, is this what you call love? You're willing to destroy your marriage and abandon your own child? Alan, you make me sick. I got in the car. A man like you doesn't deserve to be a father, let alone a husband. After saying that, I got in my car and left. In the afternoon, I received a call from Gavin. Diana, Alan came to see me. What did he want with you? He wanted me to intercede on your behalf and persuade you not to divorce him, Gavin said mockingly. I refused. What else did he say? He said he was willing to give up all his shares in H Group Real Estate as long as you didn't divorce him. I sneered. Alan is really naive, thinking I care about those shares? Diana, I think Alan has reached the end of his rope. Despair? My tone was cold. Gavin, what does his despair have to do with me? Yeah, traitors don't deserve sympathy. When I got home that evening, I found Alan waiting at the door again. This time he didn't have flowers, he just sat quietly on the steps. Alan, don't you have to work? I asked him. I have resigned. Alan looked up at me. Diana, I have transferred all my shares in H Group Real Estate to you. I was a bit surprised. Why? Because I want to prove that I love you for who you are, not for your money. Alan stood up. Diana, I have nothing now, but I still want to win you back. Alan, do you know why I have to divorce you? He looked up at me. Because I don't love you anymore. I said calmly, Alan, once love is gone, it can never be found again. Alan's face turned as pale as paper. No, it can't be. You must still love me. The sight of you makes me sick, I said ruthlessly. Alan, do you understand? Alan, sign it. Let's part ways amicably. I took out the divorce agreement. It's for the best for both of us. Alan looked at the divorce agreement and remained silent for a long time. Finally, he picked up the pen and signed his name on the agreement. Alan, starting tomorrow, we're strangers. After saying that, I turned and went into the house, leaving Alan alone outside. Finally, I was free. After finalizing the divorce, I decided to go on a trip to clear my head. Gavin found out and offered to accompany me. Diana, I have a project that requires me to go to the Maldives for research. Would you like to come along? Sure, I agreed. I could use a change of scenery. During that week in the Maldives, we were together every day. Gavin was very considerate and never asked me about Alan. He just accompanied me as I looked at the sea, took walks, and chatted. Diana, what do you think about starting over? One evening, we were sitting by the sea. What do you mean? I mean, starting over in a relationship. Gavin looked at me with a serious expression. I was taken aback. Gavin, you. I've liked you for a long time. Gavin interrupted me. From the first time I saw you, I was drawn to you. But I just got divorced. I don't mind. Gavin took my hand. Diana, will you give me a chance? Looking into Gavin's sincere eyes, I was moved. Gavin is an outstanding man, mature, steady, and successful in his career. Most importantly, he treats me well. I can consider it. I didn't refuse. Gavin smiled, then I'll wait for your answer. After returning to China, Gavin and I began dating seriously. He was much more mature than Alan and never caused me any trouble. He protected me, supported me, and made me feel safe. After Alan found out that Gavin and I were together, he called me incessantly. I didn't answer any of his calls. He even showed up at my office and caused a scene, but he was kicked out by security. Diana, that Alan guy is here again, reported the assistant. Have security escort him out and don't let him back into the company. I don't want any further contact with Alan. Let's just leave the past in the past. 6 months later, Gavin proposed to me. He got down on one knee at the restaurant where we had our first date, pulled out a diamond ring, and said, "Diana, will you marry me?" Looking at the man who loved me so much, I didn't hesitate and said, "Yes." Our wedding was grand, and we invited many friends from the business world. Alan also came, but he was stopped at the door by security. I saw him standing outside through the window, looking haggard and desperate. But I felt nothing. "Alan, you finally understand that some people, once lost, can never be found again." At the wedding, Gavin announced to everyone, "I will love and cherish my wife for the rest of my life and never betray her." Hearing this, my eyes welled up with tears. This is the kind of love I want: loyalty, devotion, and no betrayal. Not like Alan, who says he loves me but betrays me with his actions. On our wedding night, Gavin held me gently. "Diana, forget the unpleasantness of the past. Let's start over." "Okay," I said, feeling a sense of security I had never experienced before. The pain of the past was gone, and Gavin had given me healing.